Hi everyone, I'm Sharon. In our daily life, we often come across many intuitions and common sense. For example, agreeing with opposites attracts or thinking that our memory is like a camera that can capture past events accurately. However, are these intuitions from real-life experience really true in nature? Although we believe in our common sense, how can we validate it? That's what part of social research is trying to answer, debunking some myths or common sense of the human mind and exploring any potential questions. In fact, the above intuitions that I just mentioned, opposites attract and accurate memory, was disagreed by evidence provided in research. Testing for a research question or hypothesis by research method is important because it is a scientific way for us to find out the answer and to falsify some misunderstood beliefs. Therefore, today I'm going to talk about the methodology of social research. First of all, we need to come up with an alternative hypothesis, which is the question or statement that we are seeking evidence for. For example, students in a bad mood make more mistakes in the knowledge test. Please be reminded that your hypothesis should be measurable and refutable, that contradictory results may be obtained through existing technologies. For instance, the statement God exists cannot be a hypothesis because currently we don't know how to measure the existence of God and it is not quantifiable. Then, the next step is to set up an experimental design to recruit participants to enroll. There will be independence, dependence, and control variables in an experiment. The principle is that independent variables, IV, has an effect on dependent variables, DV, while control variables are some variables that researchers think may affect the IV directly and ruin the result, so they decide to control them. Using the hypothesis I mentioned as example, the IV is the mood of students and DV is mistakes in the knowledge test, while potential control variables may be age, because different age groups may lead to different amounts of knowledge in oneself. So researchers may limit the age group of participants, for instance, secondary 1 students. After defining the variables, we need to assign participants into different groups. In an experimental design, there must be at least one experimental group and one control group, where the experimental group will undergo certain treatment and the control group is natural that will not receive any treatment. In my hypothesis, there can be 2 experimental groups, where one group is triggered with bad moods before the test and one group is in a good mood. The control group will be in a condition that none of them are triggered with any emotion before the knowledge test. Manipulation checks should be done in this period to ensure the correct emotions are triggered in the treatment group. For example, we can use surveys to ask for the participants' emotion at that moment. Next, we need to make our hypothesis measurable and comparable by making it quantifiable. In my hypothesis, the measurement of DV is straightforward, which is the score of the knowledge test. But for some DV like self-esteem and happiness, scales found to be valid and reliable should be used as measurements. Assuming now we have conducted the experiment and found the results shown in here. Good mood group scores 90, bad mood group scores 80, and control group scores 88. By observation, it seems that good mood really leads to higher marks in the knowledge test. However, does these 2 marks difference large enough to justify that good mood leads to high marks? The answer is no. Imagine that you scored 0.5 marks higher than your friends in an exam of 200 full marks. Would you say you get higher marks than your friends, or interpret it as getting similar scores with your friends? The numerical difference in numbers doesn't necessarily mean there is a significant difference between groups. So, how can we find the meaning of a significant difference? In addition, we can use some statistical tools like SPSS to help us and generate a report. To determine a significant difference, there is a complicated formula behind and I will not go into details in this video. But one thing to ponder is that after you run the statistical analysis, a p-value will be the indicator of whether you can reject the null hypothesis of the study. If p is smaller than 0.05, it indicates that you can reject the null hypothesis, and it becomes a piece of evidence to support your alternative hypothesis. Overall, you may go through lots of failure in rejecting your null hypothesis during the trials and need lots of modification after trials and trials. The process of doing social research is never easy. What I have mentioned in this video is just a very brief introduction of it. There are other methods of conducting research, such as case study and field experiments. However, I hope that you will not give up and hold on to obtain some significant findings in the future when you are doing research. That's the end. Thank you.